My name is Jamaal. I'm a solicitor apprentice entering my second year. At the end of 6 years, I'll have done my SQE, which are my professional qualifying exams. But when I did my A-levels, I actually did biology, chemistry and English literature, plus an extended project qualification, which is a little bit unconventional for someone going into law. I didn't decide on wanting to do an apprenticeship until after my A-levels. When I was in year 11, I wanted to go to university. I tend to go a little bit more business casual, so I tend to go with an open collar button down, maybe some chinos and smarter shoes. So I can't say I wear a suit, but a little bit smarter. I would definitely still pick the apprenticeship route. I think university has many positives to it, but I think in a professional career, experience is everything, and having that experience over someone who's been to university and then is applying for the same roles as yourself, I think it's hands down the best option. So the most difficult part of the application process I find was the video interviews, and these are where you're talking to a camera but there's no one on the other side of the screen. The best thing I found was just practice before I actually began, talking to a wall, talking to the mirror, but getting comfortable with having those conversations without having anyone giving you anything back. It can be quite an awkward process, but I think once you make yourself comfortable with that, it becomes a lot smoother. So my favourite moment has actually been slightly outside of work, but it was part of a seminar that I did providing insight into apprenticeships at my company, where we spoke on as part of a panel on a webinar to anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 young people, providing them with any answers to any questions that they had about apprenticeships or about working life, and making ourselves available outside of that seminar as well to answer their questions. I thought that was really rewarding. I think the worst part of the apprenticeship so far has been social life sometimes can be a little bit low, especially for the first few months when you begin. You might not know as many people. That picks up quite quickly, but I think that's where apprenticeships really differ to university. When you start at university, everyone's in the same boat, everyone's trying to make friends. When you come into the professional world, everyone has their own groups and has their own friends and their own lives. Sometimes it can take a little while to settle in, but once you do settle in, it's definitely worth it. I think definitely you do. I think one thing that apprenticeships teach you is that networking is a really important part of everything that you do, whether that's with people that you work with or other people that are on your university course or your professional courses. There's going to be opportunities and group chats and networking events and days out where you can meet these people who are sharing the same experiences as you. And that's a really close and good support network to have when it comes to taking things like exams or difficult coursework and things like that, just to have someone to bounce off of. I think the biggest one that helped me succeed in my application process was my communication skills. Like I said, it's very easy for someone to appear good on paper for a recruiter, but the thing is making sure that you're the right fit for the firm. So when it comes to things like face-to-face interviews, the biggest thing that they want to see is how you're going to be working day to day, how easy you're going to be to work with, what your problem-solving skills are like, how quickly you can think on your feet. I think the biggest skill that I've learned so far is definitely about my time management and my workload management. Coming into a new role when it's my first corporate experience, it was very hard to work out how long I should be spending on certain tasks and where I should be prioritising and communicating my capacity for new work, which took a few months to nail down. It's still a work in progress, but I think I've definitely gotten better at it as the year's gone on. I became a mentor because I think it's really important to get the message out there about apprenticeships. I know for me, when I was going through my university application processes in sixth form before doing my A-levels, there really wasn't much information about apprenticeships, and I didn't really know where to be reaching out and where to be looking for that information. So I think success at school and companies like it are really important to get the message out there and provide people with that support that they need, because apprenticeships are becoming such a popular experience now that people need to be given the right guidance in order to succeed. The first definitely would have been be patient. I took a year out after doing my A-levels to really consider my options, to get some work experience doing other things, to see what worked for me. There's no rush and there's no one time scale that fits everyone. The most important thing is working out what you're ready for and when you're ready for it. The second would just be confident, be yourself in all of your interview stages. no one is going to be interested in someone who they can very clearly see is faking it. And even if you do get a job at the end of it, how long are you going to be able to keep up that facade? And the third is to remember that everyone of any age is nervous when they start a new job. Just because you're an apprentice and just because you may be younger than most people at the company doesn't mean that your nerves are any bigger than anyone else's. I think the biggest question I would have had is what sort of timelines would I have been looking at? One of the biggest things for me when I was doing my applications was not knowing when I should have been researching for application opening dates, not knowing what timescales I was going to be fitting to. There can be some uncertainty sometimes with some firms where you'll make it through certain stages and they're not always the best at communicating when you're going to hear back, but a lot of them tend to fit the same sort of timescale. So having someone who's been through that experience and can tell you, don't worry about it until X date, is a really useful thing. I think the second thing would have been how to most effectively prepare for things like job simulations and video interviews and face-to-face interviews. A lot of emphasis can go into focusing on the firm themselves or the work themselves, and sometimes you leave out bits about yourself. And at the end of the day, that's the most important part of an interview, is showing your hiring manager or your recruiter who you are and how you best serve their firm. And I think the third would have been a lot around what the working culture's like as an apprentice. I think there's a lot of misconceptions that apprentices have no social life or no free time, or they spend all of their time outside of work doing university work, which was definitely a concern of mine when I started, and it just isn't true. I think that's a really important thing to reassure people of. I'm Jamaal, I'm a solicitor apprentice. I'm also a mentor for Success at School. You can find me on Success at School's Ask an Apprentice community. You can ask me anything about apprentice application processing, what the day-to-day job looks like, what the study workload looks like, anything that you have questions about in regards to the individual stages, how best to prepare, what not to do, what to wear, and are all questions I'm really comfortable asking.